Hello champions, welcome to the session. Ajir session to ami olop interesting kori tumalukar karone ready korisu where we will get to know a lot of figures of speech which are a bit tricky. Olop confusing hoy jiketa ami discuss korim ajir figures of speech. Hebur figures of speech at ki hoy tumalukar etar logot aru eta tumi ketiaba mix kori dia naiba merge hoy jay. Most of the students on an average they make these kind of terms a bit confusing or they are not clear with the terms, that is the figures of speech which we are discussing today. Today's session is the second session for figures of speech. In the first session we have already discussed about some of the figures of speech which are very simple and which are frequently asked. But to get to a higher level of figure of speech, we need to know some of the figures of speech which are a bit intricate or complicated. Okay, let's start the session. But before the session, I am telling you, most of the students are পৰীক্ষাবোৰ তোমালোকৰ শেষ হৈছে তোমালোকে concentrate এতিয়া কৰিব পাৰিবা you have to or you need to now concentrate on the CUET undergraduate exam. You have to crack the exam with higher marks because without getting the higher marks, the cutoff marks which will be there, it will be of a higher scale because most of the students, almost a lot of students, more than a majority of the students, I am not going to tell the exact number, most of the students are going to apply for this, are going to appear for this exam, and they are very much, they are preparing, they are actually ready to give the exam. So you people, I need you people to be engaged in preparing for the exam. I need you champions to crack the exam with higher marks. So that cutoff-or karone tumaluke eku tension lobo nalage je enekwa ke preparation to kora jo tumalukor kunu confusing eku nathake. Exam or topics domains or logot related. Because English now is the mandatory language where you have to appear in a language, so you need to focus on GT paper and English paper simultaneously apart from your domain paper which you are going to select. At least 3 of the domains you are going to select or you have already selected and you have already opted for these subjects. So one more thing I just want to add is that if you have not till now applied for CUET undergraduate exam, the deadline is coming and that is the 30th March, and before that I need you people come up, apply for the job, apply for the exam if you are not applying, if you have not applied till now, apply for it and be prepared. Start your preparation if you have not started, and if you are preparing already, get into the race for the exam. Okay, let's start the session. So figures of speech, the first figure of speech is a simple one so that the intensity will get a bit higher as the session goes on. Okay, so apostrophe is the figure of speech where there is a direct, where the writer or where the poet is actually referring something or someone directly or indirectly. So any kind of reference which we make along with an apostrophe, any kind of reference that may be direct or indirect or abstract is called apostrophe. For example, the example here is, "Thou was not born for death, immortal bird." Now this is a line, this is a quotation, actually it is a quotation from the poem Ode to Nightingale by John Keats. Here it is a reference to the bird, though the name of the bird is not given. We get to know from the poem that it is referring to the immortal bird, as it is referring to nightingale, and telling the bird that it is immortal because of its colloquial voice, or because of its rhythm, or because of its beautiful voice. Okay, so here the reference is indirect. Indirectly it is referring to the bird, but here because it is indirectly referring, we term it, the figure of speech, we term it as apostrophe. Okay. Now see, in this kind of sessions, we will make it more interesting by giving you a set of MCQs based on the figures of speech or any other topics related to your English subject. So here what we do when we are discussing the MCQs, actually we need you people to interact with us, and if you have any problem. So these MCQs will not only help you in relation to your exam, it will also help you to clear confusions. কেতিয়াবা কি হয় তোমালোকৰ কোৱেশ্চনত যেতিয়া আহি যোৱা, যেতিয়া তুমি টপিকটো পঢ়ি আছা বা টপিকটো বুজিবলৈ ট্ৰাই কৰি আছা, it's clear. Till here it is okay. But when you get the questions, the exact questions, at that time you get confused. You are actually confused and you are not being able to differentiate between the options. So at that time, that is the crucial point where you are making the mistake actually. So we are here to clear your confusions in BPS. I am telling you, and I am telling you repeatedly, because these figures of speech, that a lot of topics are there in relation to English which need to be cleared from your perspective. Because even if it is taught in your schools and colleges, there are some confusions where students don't come up and clear out their confusions. So kenekwa confusion bu tumaluke yale loi aha, ami yat discuss koribole tumalukor confusions bu clear koribole aso. So apostrophe is clear, hope so. Next we are moving on to the next figure of speech, that is synecdoche. Synecdoche is what? It is actually a part or a whole. So when we are referring to only a part, for actually a whole, part in place of whole, or whole in place of part. The proportion, actually the ratio or the interplay of part and whole or whole and part is actually synecdoche. And what is this? We will get to know when we are referring to the example. Here the example is, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Now see, this is the reference where the part is being expressed in this whole. Lend me your ears. Lend me your ears means listen to me. Actually it is referring to listen or listening. Listen to me, or we can also say, listen is that, listen to me, it is trying to refer when we are referring, when we are trying to make person listen, or the audience is there and you want the audience to listen to you, here this kind of reference is made, and this kind of reference is actually trying to make the whole from the part, or from the part to the whole. So here the reference is made from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, the play, where it is asked, where people are asking, where the protagonist of the play is trying to tell the people that listen to me. I am telling something to you, I am trying to provoke you and listen to me in that sense. So whenever you are trying to express something as a whole, or for the audience you are trying to say, come on men, or we can say, men in case of the whole, in case of men for the whole audience. So whenever there is a ratio between the part and whole and part, we will identify the figure of speech as synodoke. Okay, is it clear? Part and whole or part. ইয়াতে কি হৈছে ধৰি লোৱা তোমালোকে গুটে অডিয়েন্স টুক যদি বুজাব বিচাৰিছা তাতে তুমি only you are referring that men listen to me. When it is men listen to me, you are trying to refer or you are trying to address the entire audience or crowd of people. Hudha menere okol men shobdore tumi gute audience ok bujabo bisarisa. Naiba jodi tumi koa je the entire audience, tetia ki hoy tumi eta part ok bujabole bisarisa kintu gute audience ok koisa kintu yat reference to okol ejon manuhor karone ase. So the opposite, not the opposite exactly, but the opposite in reference to the use of the words. Not the direct opposite, but reference. It is not opposite or antonym, but it is referring to whole and part. Part or whole and part. Jetia tumalke eta sentence ot ketia ba reference to paisa ba address, you are getting the address as whole or part. Jetia etu relation tumalke bisari paba, tetia tumi identify koriba the figure of speech as synodoke. Okay, is it clear? Next we will move on to the next figure of speech, which is going to be more interesting, that is metonymy. Metonymy is what? When we are actually substituting, trying to substitute. This is the figure of speech where we are using substitution. Okay? Substitution. So substitution means in place of something, the alternative. We can also say the alternative. For example, when we are going to read the example, I have never read Homer's work. Actually here there is a printing mistake, or we can say I have never read Homer's work. He succeeded to crown. Now see, here the reference is he succeeded to the crown. The crown actually is trying to focus. The word crown is actually referring to become the king. But in place of king, the word crown is used. So when in place of the word, exact word, something else is used, then we tell or identify that as metonymy. Okay? Can you understand what I am trying to refer here is that when you are trying to give an alternative to the exact perception or the exact concept, so then we term it as metonymy. Here for example, the example is crown to king. Or we can say pale, that means weak. I am feeling pale, or you can say I am feeling weak. So in place of pale, we are putting weak. In place of red, red in place of energy. Give me red or give me energy. So these kind of words, when we are trying to substitute or when we are trying to give an alternative to the entire word or the concept, we term it as metonymy. Yes, can you get the information? Can you understand the difference between synodoke and metonymy? Okay, so here what you need to understand the concept, and at the same time you need to apply them in the sentences. Try to find these kind of use in our day-to-day lives, okay? In every sentences or in any advertisement, you can see this kind of punchlines or taglines. Actually, these are figures of speech. এইবোৰ কি হয় আমি এডভাৰটাইজমেণ্টত পাওঁ নাইবা কি কোনো পেপাৰত বা কোনো হেডলাইনত পাওঁ য'ত নেকি আমাৰ গোটেই হেৰিটো বৰিং বা মনোটনিটো ব্ৰেক কৰিবৰ কাৰণে কিছুমান পাঞ্চ লাইন টেগ লাইন দি দিয়ে These are actually advertisement techniques, but in relation to literature, we term it as figure of speech. These are actually trying to provoke our understanding so that গোটেই লাইনটো পঢ়াতকৈ আমাক এটা পাঞ্চ লাইন বা এটা স্পেচিফিক ৱৰ্ড দি দিয়ে য'ৰ পৰা আমি অলপ এক্সাইটেড হৈ যাওঁ কি হ'ব পাৰে ইয়াৰ পিছত বা কি আছে এইটো এডভাৰটাইজমেণ্টৰ পিছত বা কি এই প্ৰডাক্টটো কিনিলে আমি কি পাম তো তেনেকুৱা ধৰণে চেলছত বা এডভাৰটাইজমেণ্টত এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ফিগাৰ অফ স্পীচ ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হয় য'ত একচুৱেলি সেইবোৰ তেওঁলোকে নিজৰ চেলছৰ কাৰণে ব্যৱহাৰ কৰে বাট দে হেভ আ ডেফিনিট টাৰ্ম ইন ৰিলেশ্যন টু ইংলিছ লিটাৰেচাৰ okay can you understand and relate now next we have the figure of speech that is lilot is that where there is some kind of a negative affirmation. Where there is a negative affirmation, that means someone is telling the example, let's go to the example. He is not the last hope for us. That means whenever we word the negative, not or bad, whenever the negative terms are used, negative provocation is used in order to actually lilote is that where the negative thing is focused specifically to emphasize on the positive effect. So negative herire tumalukok bostutu place kora hoise it is the sentence is actually trying to focus on the positive side of a thing but it is trying to make you understand from a negative perspective. So whenever hear the sentence he is not the last hope, that means we have other hopes or we have other potential or opportunities apart from him. So whenever he is not that bad, for example, he is not that bad. So here not and bad, that means he is referring to be good. Okay, when you can understand now when the sentence is trying to focus on the affirmative side of thing but with a negative perspective to make us understand the focus or emphasis of the goodness or the positive side, then we use lilote. Okay, can you understand now the meaning of lilot? Then we have pun. Now pun is actually the other name of pun is intended pun where intended pun. So at times what happened, pun is used but it is actually intended. So here the example is my last resort is to visit a resort. Here what the figure of speech is trying to tell is it is playing with words, trying to play with words, their meanings or their pronunciations. Okay, so in this way when we are trying to play with the words, meanings and their pronunciations, we use the we term or we identify the figure of speech as pun. Okay, now what happened in this example, what we are trying to tell is we are playing here with the word resort. So my last resort, that means my last hope or my last thing where we have the last opportunity or the last thing which we can do to help some critical situation is here the last resort is to visit a resort. Now resort is actually a place for amusement, for your extra activities. So where resort is actually a place. But here the resort, the meaning, the word, their meanings are played here. The two resorts, that means one is a resort, a place for amusement, and the other resort is actually the last hope. So here when we are playing with the meaning of the words, in the same sentence we are trying to play a dual meaning. Actually here also we can see a kind of dual meaning. So we have dual meaning, or we can also say double meaning. In simple language, we can also say the double meaning thing is actually pun. Okay, this pun is used in our, again it is used in our day-to-day life, in our advertisements, in the videos, in shows, in each and every, in comic, in the joke serious point of view, in our papers, in each and everything we can see. If we notice or if we observe the things in a critical way, we can identify pun, synedoke, metonymy, lilote in our day-to-day use of conversation or in our day-to-day activities actually. So try to find them in your in the newspapers or in the advertisements. This will help you to identify and relate them with your exam paper. You will be clear at the same, you will be clear with the concepts, and at the same time you will be able to use them in your daily lives, in your day-to-day activities. Hope pun is clear till here. Next we have cliche. Cliche is actually which has cliche is actually here the spelling is cliche. Here what happens, cliche is something which is a bit the phrases which we use in our day-to-day lives, but which has lost its intensity or which has lost its meaning. We can also identify cliche with some kind of prejudice. Okay, we can, to some extent, we tell that we can identify them with prejudice which have lost its use, its meaning in the contemporary times. For example, any kind of phrase which is outdated or which has turned obsolete in context of this contemporary times, we term it as cliche. যেতিয়াই তোমালোকে নিজৰ সেন্টেন্সবোৰত দেখিবা কিছুমান ফ্ৰেজ যিবোৰ অলপ আউটডেটেড হৈ গৈছে বা যিবোৰ আমি এতিয়া আমাৰ লাইভছ আমাৰ এতিয়াৰ কন্টেম্পৰেৰী লাইফৰ লগত হেৰি নহয় মিলাব নোৱাৰি, সেইবোৰক আমি ক্লিশে বুলি কওঁ। ফৰ এক্সাম্পল, don't judge a book by its cover. So here what happened, only cover, what this is trying to tell, that when you have a book in hand, the cover is not the everything, that if the cover is good or if the cover is a standard one, it means that the book inside also has good points to tell you, or the book has good contents. So the cover, the first expression, actually a lot of things can be intended here, it can be added here, but what I am trying to tell, that something which is not in relation to the present society, or the phrases or the proverbs which have become outdated with the gradual development of the society or with the gradual development of our conceptions, we term them as cliche. Can you understand the meaning now? Cliche mane hoise olop jibur mane অলপ পুৰণি ধৰণৰ ফ্ৰেজেছবোৰ যিবোৰ এতিয়া আমি এপ্লাই কৰিবলৈ নোৱাৰোঁ okay next we have irony now what is irony irony from the word itself তোমালোকে হয়তো irony শব্দটো আগতেও পাইছা irony is actually to make something a bit humorous or when we are referring to something in a humorous way or in a joco-serious manner. So when you are trying to amuse someone and trying to bring out the greater meaning or the hidden meaning with a sense of irony, we term it as, with a sense of amusement, we term it as irony. Okay? For example, here, a pilot having fear of heights. Now, for a pilot to have fear of heights is actually something which can't be related or which is not practical in the term, in its sense. So, here what it is being said that a pilot is not a person who is having fear of heights because he has to move. He has to do, his profession is something which is related with heights, which is related with the altitude. So here something is trying to be focused or something is being tried to make us understand that in a way which is a bit humorous. So whenever we are trying to place something in a humorous manner, then we call it as irony. Okay? Now one more thing, in the next session I will try to add MCQs based on figures of speech because it will help you to apply the figures of speech which we have already done in these two sessions, that is figures of speech 1 and figure of speech 1.2. So in these two sessions you have learnt a lot of figure of speech which are frequently asked in your exam. So in the next session I will try to add a lot of MCQs where it will be an interactive session and I need you all to join me in the session and I need you people to give me a lot of examples from your day-to-day lives. Even I am at a crisis. Even I am at a crisis at this platform, at this point of time, I am at a crisis of words where I can't find, where I am unable to find words. I need you all to come up. I need you all people to come up and give me more examples so that I can use it in posterity. So in the next session, I hope you all will join me and you all will be interacting with me through comments where I will try to give you, I will try to clear your confusions and I will try to identify the examples that you will be giving me in the session itself. Okay? Here next we have the figure of speech. Okay, the irony was the last. One more thing which I just want to add the figure of speech is allegory. Okay, one more thing which I want to add is allegory. Just try to add this in your sheets or in the notes where you are making, though it is not in the slide, it is, I am trying to add this in the session. I have already added this in the session, that allegory. Allegory, what is allegory? Allegory is a figure of speech where the writer or the poet is trying to use metaphor in a sense, in a way where the entire tale or the story or the poem is being framed out. So here there is some kind of a lesson or we can say a moral. তোমালোকে আগতে পাইছা নহয় ইছপছ ফেবল, তাৰপিছত বুঢ়ী আইৰ সাধু, এইবোৰত কি হয় লাষ্টত আমাৰ এটা মৰেল দিয়া থাকে। ইয়াতে এলিগৰিত কি হয় বেসিক্যালি দিজ আৰ ফেবলস। এক্সাম্পলস আৰ fables jot animals idea to loi animals burok ami place kori pine gute story to bujao aru last ot eta moral di diu heburok ami term koru as allegory. So these kind of allegories are actually when we are getting some kind of a lesson, a moral lesson, and the moral lesson is in the term of a lot of metaphor. Okay, so a series of metaphor, we can also say a series of metaphor when it is placed in the form of a story or in the form of a poem where a moral is being included in the epilogue or we in the ending or in the conclusion. So there that we term it as allegory. So here we came to know, in today's class we came to know about synecdoche, apostrophe, metonymy, lilote, allegory, irony, and one more thing, it was what it was. So cliche, pun. So a lot of things we came to know in today's session, a lot of figure of speech where I tried to clear your confusions, but these kind of confusions will still be there until and unless you interact with me. So the next session will be on MCQ, and hope you all join me in that session with a lot of interaction. Till then, keep preparing. Thank you for being with me throughout the session.